This presentation is called 8 Ways to Get That 100K Salary or More. And Catherine Jewell has been a speaker at Launchpad and a gazillion other places all over Austin for years and years and years. She is one of the preeminent job coaches in Austin. She knows everything there is to know about how to find a job. She is passionate about helping everybody get a job they love. She has been known as the Career Passion Coach since 2000. She's a certified professional career manager. Through coaching, speaking events, and webinars, she has helped more than 3,000 adults identify and win the job and the status and the income that they deserve. She is the author of 3 books on career changing, including New Resume, New Career, which is the only resume book featuring 50 real career change stories. So without any more delay, and I'm sorry we're getting a bit of a late start, but I want to introduce Catherine Jewell.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Who wants to make 100 grand in your next job? Okay, good. Glad to hear that. I know that some of you may not be at that level yet, and I want to tell you first a little story while we get the slides up, and that is that as a career coach for the last 20 years, what I found very simply is that a lot of people couldn't afford my services because they needed my services the most when they were unemployed. And so a few years back, I started focusing on helping people who already have jobs upgrade. And so my typical client nowadays makes between $70,000 and $80,000, and they want to break through that 100K barrier. And so I've done a lot of studying on what is the difference between an 80K job and a 100K job. And what is the difference between an 80K person and a 100K person? Because my personal philosophy is if you have made $100,000 before, that is the job you should be seeking. Absolutely, positively, end of story. Because if you take another job that, is just, well, it's okay, and it's what I need for now, you are not going to be happy, and you may not even perform well enough to leave, to stay in that job. You may even be asked to leave. And I've had clients who have done that. They said, okay, I used to make 120 as a salesperson, and I have this chance to get in as customer experience manager, and it's only 80K, but I'll work my way up, blah, blah, blah. And 4 months later, they get let go. And so I just want you to kind of get the picture that you, for the most part, determine your salary based on the way you perform, the way you hold yourself, and the way you act. And that's how you act during the job seeking series too. So we're going to talk about the differences and find out, is it really possible? And I'm going to start by showing you what my theme is, and that is to increase your income and upgrade to an even better job. And I try to help people earn 30 to 50% more and finally do the work that they love. And so anytime, if you work with me, we're going to look at your salary history and we're going to say, okay, what would be a 20% increase? What would be a 30% increase? And what do you want to do? Now, the slides today are, some of them are actually hard to read because I am not a slide producer. And I did produce these slides myself. And so the first person in this group who sends me an email saying, I can make your slides look better, will get a free session. And because I'm willing to give you a free session to help me redesign these slides. So, having said that, let's move on. The first thing I want to emphasize is what I preach, and there are no perfect jobs. Everybody knows that every job has a downside, no matter how good it is in the beginning. There is only perfect work. And what I mean by that is, perfect work is the work that satisfies you. It's the work that uses your talents. It's the work that makes you feel good when you come home at night. It's the work that helps you grow and develop. That is your perfect work. And so if you're not growing, you're not really thriving in your career. You can't thrive if you're not growing, if you're not being challenged. And so you really want to take a job that is a step up and that will be a stretch for you. Now, the only exception to that would be the people who are RIP. Does everybody know what RIP stands for? Retired in place. And if you are a person who's retired and working, then you may actually want to step down to a job that has less responsibility. But what I'm talking about today is actually the people who are still growing and developing in their careers. And by the way, for the gentlemen in the room, it has been proven that retirement is hazardous to your health. You've seen the statistics. When men retire, they tend to die. And I would really tell you that having just experienced a big birthday, by the way, it was an O birthday. 40. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take 40. I'm 40 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10. So I'm actually 70, and I have no intention of retiring because I'm doing my perfect work. So when you find your perfect work, you have the drive to produce and create more, and that makes you worth more. So do you see how you need the perfect work in order to do your best job, in order to get that $100,000 salary? So what we're going to cover today is it really possible to double your income? Is it possible?
Sure.
Why do some people earn more than other people? We're going to look at that. How to discover your current value, which many of you already know. How to do that. And then 8 ways to increase your income to get the $100,000 salary, or for a lot of you here in the room, to get that $100,000 salary again. Let's get it again. And 5 strategies for your next career move. And what are the steps in the process? So this chart kind of shows you the steps that I go through working with a client. And I want to hand out a certificate. Would you help me pass this down to everybody? I've got 60, so I think I have just enough for everyone. So my system is to first of all define your brand, and I have my own career passion test for that. And then here to package your expertise, and you all know about this. This is all about your new resume and also the cover letter and your LinkedIn profile and so forth. And so I can help with those steps. And also then generating career opportunities is usually where job seekers fall down. Because now you can go to job fairs, and that is literally generating career opportunities, but the career opportunities that you generate through networking are actually better for you. They work better for you. And then you want to craft your career story so that you're ready for the interviews. So this would include what I call star stories, and I know that you learn about those here at Launchpad and at other job clubs. And then final step is to win the offers, promotions, and raises. So is it really possible to earn 30 to 50% more? The first question is, are you or were you underpaid? Who feels that they were actually underpaid? A lot of people were underpaid and have been underpaid because our net incomes have not increased in the last 20 years. When I quit my job 21 years ago, I was making $65,000. And that was considered a good job. But if you were to take that job and then, put in cost of living increases and blah, 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 I would be up to like $170,000 by now. And I will tell you that the people who are back at Principal Financial Group in Des Moines, Iowa, doing training, a training job, are not making $170,000. They're making a little bit more than the 65 I was making when I quit. And that is an issue for all of Middle America. So most of us, many of us are underpaid, and we have to find a way to position ourselves into that upper echelon. Have you been with your current company, or were you with your current company more than 3 years? You're probably underpaid. Because what they're doing is paying more to hire someone to sit beside you and do the same work. And if you leave and then come back, you actually make more than if you had stayed. You go, oh, no, I see a lot of heads shaking. Did you start at a competitive rate? This is really key because a lot of us have had to take jobs. And remember 2008? Oh my, it was just desperate out there. And so if you didn't start at a competitive rate, how could you possibly have a competitive rate now? Do you have the talent? Do you have the ambition? And this last one is really important. Are you willing to take charge? Because most companies have a huge gap in leadership. And they've flattened the organizations out now to the point where they have hardly any managers whatsoever. And people who have an individual contributor role, who act as if they are ready to take charge and to help people become more, tend to be promoted and to make more. But you can't be the person who wants to sit in the back of the in the back of the office and work at your computer all day long and not interact with people. Because those people don't make $100,000. I promise you. Unless they've got some technical talent that puts them there. Okay, so one myth is that if you get your foot in the door and then you work your way up. Okay, so this myth should be completely dispelled by now. This is a 1950s idea. Seriously. This is what my father told me when I was looking for work for the very first time in 1971. This is what he told me. And what happens is that if you start out as Milton McAdams, coordinator of the basement level, oh no, he's a collator in the basement level, you will never be seen as anything more than the collator in the basement level. So you really have to get in at an appropriate level for you. And so the Harvard Business School had an article recently talking about attorneys who get just $5,000 more in their first job out of law school. Will actually earn $634,000 more during their career. So do you see how just a little bit more makes a huge difference down the road? Because you're getting raises on the salary that you have. So the first step is to discover your value. And who in this room does not know about salary.com? Do not raise your hand, please. There is someone. Okay. You can also network in your field, and you can check with a mentor. That's how you can discover what your value is. Now, some people are really reluctant that if you are sitting down and talking to an employee of, I'll just pick Indeed. You know someone at Indeed, and you're talking to an employee at Indeed, and you say, do you have any idea what a program manager at Indeed would command? You are not saying, what do you make? What you're saying is, do you have any idea what that salary level might be? Now, you can also look it up, and Indeed, and of course, other job boards now, especially Glassdoor, are giving salaries for the jobs, which is really great. Only seek jobs that pay more than you're currently earning, or more than you made before. So those are the jobs you want to go after. If you shoot too low, you are absolutely guaranteed rejection. Why? Somebody know why? You are not qualified. You're actually a little overqualified, or you're a misfit, and you're going to be rejected. And people get really discouraged, and they say, gosh, I can't even give it away. Here I am applying for this job that's $20,000 less than I used to make, and they won't take me either. Well, the reason they won't take you is that you're not a good fit for that job. So you're all familiar with salary.com and what it looks like. And so what I did was compare training specialist jobs. And so we have training specialists 4, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And if you see these, you can actually compare them side by side. And you'll notice the job descriptions, if you read through these really carefully, they're almost identical until you get down to this part right here. And so since you can't read that, as you're going through this, trainer 2 was 2 to 5 years experience, trainer 3, 5 to 10. And so if you're in the 15-year plus category, you need to be in this kind of a job, which in this case was a training manager job. So what is the difference in the job description? Oh no, we're going to look at salary first. Okay, so here's training specialist 2. 2 to 5 years experience. Mid-range is 59, 760. Low 53, high 67. And there's training director. So let's put those side by side. And this is how you double your income. If you are making an average job salary for training specialist 2 at 59.7, and you have been doing the work of a training director. Now, how many of you have done work of the title above you? I mean, everybody does that. And what you want to do is keep track of all the work that you're doing that is not, or in your case, if you're searching for work, that was beyond your job level, because that was actually at the next level. And so, if you can position yourself as a training director instead of the training specialist, because you've been doing some training director type functions, and you can get in at the lowest amount, which is $124,000, you have just made the jump from 60 to 120. Just like that. That's how people double their income. It's almost always at least a jump of one position and sometimes 2 positions. But Many times today, because companies have condensed jobs, they have people performing at a higher level than their title would indicate. And so you have already performed at that higher level, and so what you need to do is convince the recruiter that you have done that. And in many cases too, training specialist doesn't mean anything outside of maybe a certain company. And so we'll actually make this title reflect what the person actually did. And so that gets a little bit tricky. We want to be careful about how much we stretch on that, but I definitely help my clients try to give themselves titles that mean something. For example, how many of you have worked at Dell? The titles outside of Dell are incomprehensible. And so you really have to just strip away all the stuff and say program manager, senior program manager, or whatever it is, and take away the rest of the title, which is yay long. Okay, so going back to the job descriptions, what is the difference between this job and this job? So we're skipping over training specialist 3. Okay, so the training director directs, that's number 1. So one of the things you want to put on your resume is the word direct. I directed. Okay, the other thing is they collaborate with functional management. And so any contact that you've had with management where you've literally been consulting with management and giving management the plan, that is a more senior level type position. And then if you've ever approved the work that someone else has done, you want to make sure and get that on your resume. So you know this trick of you take the job description and you make sure that the verbs match the verbs on your resume. Another one is overseeing. Now, a lot of people have overseen projects, but they never use that verb. So that's an important one. And then manages and develops training professionals. So how many of you have actually managed and developed people in your department? Okay. That is the first step towards supervision. Now, it is a stretch to say you supervise people if you've managed them and developed them, right? Because supervision usually means they have, a direct line relationship and you evaluate their performance. But I have worked with many people who have not been called supervisors, who have, they have input on performance, they manage people, and they develop people. And if that isn't being a manager, I don't know what is. So it's really important to give yourself the credit for that. Because we just had a speaker, and I know you all know him too, Charles Black, and he's with Indeed. And he was telling me that when he looks for supervisory skills, he wants to know how long ago were you supervising? So if your last position was individual contributor, but you actually were managing, you were overseeing, you were directing, you want to make sure and position it in that way. And then, of course, a training director would also be creative and create functional strategies with budgets, policies, procedures, and so forth. And then you notice the last one, 5+ years of management experience. And this is the biggest bugaboo to getting that higher level job, because everybody wants you to have already done what they're asking you to do, right? So what you want to look at is how many years of managing and developing other people and overseeing work and all of that have I done? And in some ways you can call that supervisory, even though you did not have the management title. So you want to be ready when you go into an interview to emphasize those things. So salary all boils down to collaborating with upper management, approve and suggest enhancements. You are no longer a doer at the higher levels. Leading and directing, creativity, latitude. How much latitude did you have? How much span of control? How much did you help other people create their programs and so forth? And then leadership. And leadership to a great extent is what you make it. Okay, so, okay, we're going to leave that up. And by the way, I understand we can put the slides on the website. Okay, so those of you who are snapping slides.
They'll have to get them, you can put them in the LinkedIn group or they can get them off of the video.
Okay, and I can post them in the LinkedIn group?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I will do that. I will do that for you. Okay, and I'm going to give you a handout later with these 8 tips because I want your participation. So, here are the 8 ways to get a higher salary. Number 1, never tell what you earn. Okay, I don't want any pushback because I know the stories. So, Charles Black told us specifically, if they ask for a specific salary, you put in $99,999. He has actually told groups that. Now, some companies are not going to allow you to get through their system. Maybe you don't want to work for those companies. I don't know. I have also heard that some companies are asking for W-2s. That is the time I would run. Not walk away. There is nothing. As far as I know, your salary is between you and Uncle Sam. Period. And they cannot ask your salary when they call to do a reference check on you. So, your salary is what you say it is, and it's better if you don't say. If you don't ever say. So here are some ways to get around it, and you're going to want to have these at the ready. So what is the salary band for this position? You say to the recruiter. Or you say, well, I'm currently a training manager in a global company. You can guess my salary range. Recruiters know that off the top of their heads. I can tell you what the salary range for that position is. Okay, I think it's more important for me to understand if this is a position that's a good fit before we talk salary. The next one. Well, I'm at the top of my salary range and looking for advancement. And you know what my salary range is because you know what title I've held. And I'm sure if your company makes an offer, we can come to an agreement. In other words, you make me an offer and then I will tell you if that is the right salary. This is really hard to do. I've researched this job and I know we're both in the same ballpark. I know we're in the same ballpark because I've researched this job online and the salary range online fits my needs. So you're not going to get your salary. If you do, you will be offered between $2,000 and $3,000 more, and not a penny more than that. Yes?
Does that go back to the theory that in a negotiation, the first person that puts a number on the table has lost?
Yes. Pretty much that's the truth. The other thing is that you don't want to negotiate salary until you know they want you. When they want you, you have the cards. You're holding the cards now. And one of my clients, for example, was offered a job as a project manager in a startup. And she had special knowledge that other people did not have. They were actually designing their software on the platform she created. She actually had created the platform that they were working on. And I said, well, let me see the job description. And we looked at the job description and said, this isn't a project manager. This is a product manager. And the difference in salary between project manager, product manager is about $30,000. So she went back to them and said, well, you're actually asking me to be a product manager, and I have special knowledge that other people do not have, and so I want $30,000 more. They gave her $25,000 more. Not a bad deal. It was a really good deal for her. Okay, now, the second thing you need to do is have more impact. And of course, if you're not working right now, you want to think about the times when you have had a lot of impact. Consistently implement changes that affect more people, more divisions, more customers. In fact, I love the star stories that say things like, and my suggestions were implemented globally to 60,000 salespeople. I mean, you know, and so anytime you can claim that you had that kind of impact on a company, it's better. The third one is become more visible. So you want to think about, in your former job, how visible was I and how could I have been out there more? So you want to write reports. You want to be the author of reports that go to management. You want to make presentations. In fact, I would ask to make presentations so that you're the person representing your department. Know the boss's boss. You want to be familiar with the chain of command and know who's who going up the ladder, and is there any way I can meet my boss's boss? You want to host meetings. Yes?
How do you do that when your bosses are in different parts around the country? My last position, I was here in Austin. My unit supervisor was in Ohio. Their boss was in Oklahoma City, and their boss was in Iowa.
Yeah, that's really hard. And did you use Zoom or any meeting platform?
Yeah, we had GoToMeeting.
GoToMeeting.
When we needed it. But
And could you see the person's face or no?
no, but I've met two of the three from the office periodically, or in their office.
You just want to make as much contact as you possibly can. And being a remote employee is not particularly good for your career. I know it's great to work at home, but it is a career stifler because you don't have enough visibility. And so if you can, you want to attend all the meetings and give your bosses reasons to invite you to a meeting, or you have to fly there and make a presentation or something, because you have to get visibility in order to get the attention of management. And so, yeah, I know it's difficult. It really is. And gather results and report them out. Whatever the results are, what you're doing, keep reporting to your boss. And what you want to do is send an email that is neutral enough that he can forward it on. So he doesn't have to do anything to change it up. He can just forward it on. And that can get you more visibility. And then get a mentor 2 levels up. what you want to do is constantly be networking inside the company to get mentors above you and above you and above you. And I was really impressed. One of my clients is a business analyst at USAA. And she was actually in underwriting. She wanted to become a business analyst. And I said to her, I said, well, how many business analysts do you know at USAA? And she said, well, I don't know any. I said, well, get busy. And within the first month, she was able to make contact with 3 or 4 business analysts. And then she met the chairman of the department, because she's a remote worker. She works in Austin, and so she drives down to USAA as often as she needs to, and she made sure that she met some of the business analyst people. And you know what? They invited her to join their department because they liked her so much, and because she had just finished her certificate in business analysis, or whatever they call it. So, so number 4 is learn something that few others know about. So step up and be the one who takes on a new challenge. Learn SQL, pivot table, Salesforce, cybersecurity, whatever it is. Learn that new thing that's out there. My husband is an expert in data center efficiency. He's an electrical engineer, and he's been doing government relations now for about 10 years. And about 4 years ago, his boss called him up and said, hey Jay, could you just like take on some cybersecurity? And he said, yeah, I guess. And now he is a worldwide expert on cybersecurity and cybersecurity law around the globe. And you know, it doesn't take that long if you really take something on. And of course, it's part of his job. But he took it on, and now he's got all kinds of career opportunities that he wouldn't have had 4 years ago. And then definitely look for ways to promote new knowledge and work cross-functionally. As much as you can, work with people in different departments. Now, number 5 I love is make more judgment calls. Does anyone know who this is? Yes. Alice Hopper.
Grace.
Because she is my idol, and I really look up to this woman. She is the one who said it's easier to ask forgiveness than to get permission. She was a rear admiral with the United States Navy. She had 4 different tours with the Navy, totaling 43 years. She is the oldest person to ever retire from the United States Navy. She retired at 83. She is called Grandma Cobol because she is the first person who put forward the idea of machine-independent programming languages. She had, before she ever went into by the way, she tried to get into the Navy for World War II, but they wouldn't take her because she was 34. Too old. Too old. And this lady died in her sleep at 85. And she was just 1 year retired from the Navy. So Grace Hopper has been called Amazing Grace, and she's also been called Grandma Cobol. And this is one of the most important phrases you can ever remember. And that is that when it's time to make a judgment call, make it. And you're going to take the consequences, good or bad, but making judgment calls is what high-income people do. And you can always ask forgiveness if you've made an error in judgment. But this sets you apart, and when you make those judgment calls. So, You could say something like, hey, our weekly check-ins take 2 hours of company time. How about I email you a list of things I'm working on and save our face-to-face time for strategy? Let's talk about strategy instead of having this ridiculous check-in. And in other words, you're managing your manager in a way, and you're setting yourself up as a leader. You're setting yourself up as more strategic. Now, number 6, this is, okay, I confess, I am the little red hen, because nobody does it better than you. Anybody else have that issue? You know, and it's really, really hard. You know, I'll ask somebody, will you do this X, and then they don't do it well. I guess
Her
just-
issue is no one can do it at all.
No, I'll just do it myself. I'll just do it myself. And the little red hen got to the point where, frankly, she thought that nobody else could do it. And so, you need to trust the professionals who are working around you. You really have to. And persuade people to work with you. So you need to have the kind of personality where you're constantly bringing people in on what you're doing and how can we work together? Can you help me with this? And anybody who's ever done projects knows that a project manager's #1 job is persuasion. It's convincing other people to do what they should have been doing all along, right? And so you cannot be the little red hen. You've got to stop being a victim. You've got to stop taking on a ridiculous assignment at the last minute that keeps you in the office till 9 o'clock on Friday night. Or God forbid, all weekend. If you're doing it, why isn't there a team of people doing it? And I really think about that. By the way, I did have a client who had this issue, and she changed jobs successfully with my help, and then she had the same issue in her new job. She was a little red hen. She was all about I'll just do it myself. Okay, number 7, develop a mentor who will speak for you. Now this is really, really key. It's just a person in your line of work who will speak for you. So one of my clients got fired recently from a healthcare firm. So she went in as a client engagement manager. She created their entire platform of how they serve clients, because they have equipment that they're servicing in hospitals, and they literally did not have a system for assigning people, and she got all that up and running. Then she also was working directly with clients, and what they did was they were literally losing their shirts because it's a pretty small startup kind of company. And so they demoted her to admin. Now she's checking invoices. And she had been doing this strategic work and had been doing training and so forth and so on. But she had friends inside the company. So she got let go from the company, and now she is interviewing with another kind of company, and she gave a reference of a woman that she had worked with who said, "We miss her so much because she set up our entire system. She is a genius at figuring out process." And that got her the interview with the new company. So just know it doesn't have to be your boss. It could be somebody in a different department. And so you want to go back in your memory and say, where are my friends? And where are the people who really understood what I did? Because you know, the people who understand what you do the least, sometimes, are the people supervising you. Really? The people who you serve your internal customers really understand what you do and they understand how hard it is. So think about that and think about, well, where can I have that mentor who will speak up for me, and see if you can get the mentor to make an introduction to someone in a new position. Okay. They have your back in executive meetings. That's really important. Because somebody will say, well, it's the fault of X. Maybe not X person, but X system or whatever. And somebody in the executive meeting needs to be able to say, oh, no, wait a minute. That was a mess 3 months ago, and they've made tremendous progress. And there may still be some glitches, but these people are solid and they're working like crazy to make it work. And they'll speak up for you when assignments are given. I think that's a good assignment for that person, or no, that's not a good use of his talents or her talents. They choose you to do something new and innovative. Because in a management meeting, they may be discussing, well, who can help us? Who can help us figure out the specifications for this software that we need to buy? And if your name comes up, you've got the job. Now, number 8 is one that people forget all the time, and that is to congratulate yourself and others. Okay, so the best way to get compliments at work is to give compliments at work. So you give compliments, and this goes for LinkedIn too. The best way to get recommendations on LinkedIn is to give recommendations. You give recommendations and then people feel, oh, I should give one back. And what another person says about your performance is 10 times better than what you would say. Because you'll be astounded by the great things that people say. So at work, you want to debrief all your major projects. Make sure you've got numbers, results, all of it. Summarize results, report them to your boss in an email that can be forwarded. Congratulate the whole team. Now, especially if you're the project manager, you congratulate the whole team. Because it sets you up as the leader. But you don't even have to be the leader of a team to congratulate the whole team. Which is another way to take a leadership role. And make sure you give thanks for all the other departments that chipped in and helped and so forth. So these kinds of messages you really have to take your time in creating, because you don't want to leave somebody's name out. And you don't want to leave a department out. And it makes everybody feel fabulous that these are, and management loves to send these out as if they had written it, you know? And then save results of emails in a paper file to take home. So you have the paper file in your office, and if you ever get let go, you pick up the file that has your name on it and you walk out the door with your box.
I can just testify to that last one several times here. You never know what's going to happen. And you walk out the door, and you take your computer, moving on to the last
Yes.
year. You think, oh, it's all in the cloud, it's all saved. Then you find out I can't get your name on anymore. You've got all that evidence about it.
And you can't get into the cloud.
Right.
That cloud.
So important.
Yeah. It's not good. So you really do have to have this on paper, or I'm sure some of you are so sophisticated that you know how to download emails onto a thumb drive, blah,
But
blah.
it takes time to do that. And once you do it before you get walked out the door, then
Well, and you only need a few. You don't need
Yeah,
very
you don't
many.
need everything.
Yes.
For the record, most companies now are delivering thumb drives that they won't allow you to do anything, so that is.
They won't even allow you to walk in with a thumb drive, yeah.
No, if you put it in your computer will crash.
Oh my, okay. How lovely.
If
All
I
right.
may,
So, yes.
to tangent briefly off of that last point, it's also important to save any CYA email offsite of, hey, I warned them about this disaster that might happen. It's a tangent off of this, but that's another thing to say.
Yes.
Pearl Harbor file.
Very important. I just have a couple more slides that I want to finish up with, and that is what to do. So you can figure out a way to earn more at your current job or cut and run. So these are 6 strategies for the next move, which is going to be your next move. Strategy 1, move to the competition. Think about who are the competitors of the company that you're with, and can I go there? Jay's story is he was making $97K in government relations. He moved to a tech competitor, his new salary $170. Because they didn't realize how little he was being paid. They did not know, and he did not reveal it. They thought 170 was a completely obvious salary for a government relations person. 74% increase in pay, but 305 search days. He started talking to one of his business associates about it, and it took almost a year for that job to pan out. Strategy 2 is to move sideways. So a different function, but closer to the client. People who are closer to the client make more money than people who are doing the back end, whatever it is. So you could go from operations to sales, from human resources to consulting, from training to client training. Client training pays more than training. Sales support to channel partners. Do you see how those transitions? Now, Lee's story is that she went from training in a financial services organization to sales training at Dell. And she very soon had gotten promoted to global sales. And so now she's doing global sales training. Big, big increase. We're talking like double, easily. Move to the other side. This is my story. This is early in my career. I was making $40K as an account executive at an ad agency. And what I wanted to do is move to the other side and to hire an ad agency. So I became a marketing director, and I went from 40 to 65 in one jump, 62% increase. 65 search days, by the way. It was fast because I told people specifically what I was looking for, and I went to a sales and management meeting and just happened to tell the person next to me what I was looking for, and he said, I have your job, I'm a recruiter. And that's the way it happened. Okay, strategy 4 is move at the height of your glory. Hardly anybody is smart enough to do this. But this blew me away. One of my clients was making $90K as economic development officer for an Austin suburb. Then she got a major employer to move to that town. Then another suburb recruited her and offered her 175. Isn't that amazing? And so 94% increase in pay, 0 search days, because she wasn't even looking. So it's really, I mean, this was just wonderful. Strategy 5, move to learn something new. So Susan was making 110K as a senior network engineer, but she wanted to be a data architect. Any data architects here in the room? Boy, I'll tell you what, that is really a going thing right now. And she knew data modeling and Power BI, but she knew that she needed to learn SQL and Hadoop. So she was learning those, and she got recruited as a data architect by someone in her Hadoop class. So she went to 136K, which was a 24% increase. Strategy 6 is move to sales and marketing. Now, I say that because there are hidden sales and marketing people who they don't have the confidence to move into sales and marketing because they think everybody has to be outgoing and da-da-da. And that's not the case, especially for marketing. So Brian was making $73K as a counselor for the U.S. Army. He was doing PTSD and marriage counseling. And in the past, he did pharmaceutical sales. And so he had a lot of healing background and so forth. His passion is helping people. And his new target was specialty pharma sales. So his new income between 113 and 131, depending on how his bonuses go. 79% increase, 41 search days. And so, and by the way, Brian is also an example of what I call the, oh, now I can't remember it. What's the thing? The boomerang. It's the boomerang career. You cast yourself out there as a career person and you end up following all these trails. And then, towards your 50s, it all comes back and you go, I loved being in banking. I loved being in healthcare. I'm going to go do that again. And you know, you can market that experience. And so he did a boomerang because he went back to pharmaceutical sales. And the fact that he is a counselor makes him a better salesperson than ever before. And by the way, as a counselor, he had to build his own business. So he could actually show them, I built my business from 0 to 120K in 6 months. That kind of thing. So what's the right strategy for you? If we work in a group, you would pick one of these strategies. So remember, step 1 is what are you worth? Step 2 is what assets really matter in the game that I'm playing. So if you figure out which game you're playing, then you can figure out which assets you're going to emphasize. Choose a strategy, repackage yourself. You know, really think about repackaging your resume and have a targeted search because it gives you confidence, it makes you sound more professional, and targeting is always more successful than not targeting. So you have to target. And I say this as a recovering marketer. You never have enough money to market to everybody. So what you want to do is just focus, focus, focus. Now, if you're focused here and a little job, appears over there, but it's still kind of on the target. Maybe it's not the bullseye. You might go, oh yeah, I'm going to look into that one. But if you're targeted, you just sound so much more confident. And it gets you closer to your dream. It goes much faster if you're targeted. And you don't want to keep switching your target if you can avoid that.